Kyle Shanahan laid down the law with Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. Mina Kimes blew me away with 2 stats from her own podcast. And our old friend's going to play football tomorrow night. We'll talk about it all on today's Gold Standard Podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to the original Gold Standard Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, part of the Pro Football Insiders. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera, alongside Levin Black, who is wearing light blue today. I can only assume, Levin, in support of Trey Lance, who's going to start for the Chargers tomorrow in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, we'll go with that. It's not that I was in a work shirt and realized after I put the kid down that I needed a shirt for the podcast and just grabbed the nearest polo to where I was in the room.
Nope, it's definitely you still love Trey Lance and you're pulling for him.
I mean, it will be, yeah, I definitely am pulling for him and I would like to see him succeed.
Yeah, it would be nice to see him play well. And you know what? I'm not going to lie. Made me a little more interested in the game tomorrow night. So I'll be watching for that.
Yeah, finding any reason whatsoever to watch a preseason game is a victory.
Yes.
Because 2/3 of the games, there's no reason to watch it other than you're an addict and you got nothing better to do.
There's another point about that I want to make. Maybe we'll get there later in the show. But I wanted to start with the main thing on today's show, which is a very little interesting nugget that Tim Kawakami and Matt Barrows sprinkled into their pod, the 49ers Plus Minus pod, about Nick Bosa and Trent Williams. I thought it was interesting, and I thought it related to something that Mooney Ward just told Mike Silver. And it all goes back to how I think the vibes with the 49ers are ultimately good. It might sound bad, but just stick with me. It'll ultimately be good. First up, I will play the snippet. This is Tim Kawakami and Matt Barrows from the 49ers Plus Minus podcast.
This is the most I've seen Bosa practice, I think, in a training camp. It's early. Maybe he skips the rest of the way. I'm not sure. But I think he and Trent have gotten the message from, whether it's Kyle Shanahan or their position coaches or John Lynch. They kind of want these guys on the field more. I think there's definitely a motivation to have the top line guys out there more this camp. They might get hurt. Maybe it's a bad thing. But so far, it's been a very interesting thing. And I think it does lead you to, they know that their foot was off the pedal a little bit last year for a lot of different reasons. And they want it back down. They want to floor it right now.
He's the oldest member of the defensive line. And it's only by a matter of months over, I think, Jordan Elliott or a couple of guys. But
so anyway, that is the main gist of the point. And I thought it was super interesting, Levin, because look, we all get it. Special players get special privileges, but I think it clearly hasn't helped them stay healthy. At least it hasn't helped Trent stay healthy. And I think it goes back to the Niners sort of building this thing, dare I say, brick by brick again.
I mean, leaders can't lead from the sideline. So I think preferential treatment is always a very tightrope to walk. Mm-hmm. Yes, your leaders and your best players, the reality is, yeah, they get preferential treatment because of how good they are. But you got to limit it and you got to control it enough to where it doesn't become a detriment to the team. And I think clearly that is one of the ways that they're trying to change the message, change the vibes, and rebound from last year's, it's over kind of downer mentality.
I love it. I'm here for it. I agree with it. And it reminded me of something that Mooney Ward said to Mike Silver. If you haven't gotten a chance to read it or you don't subscribe to The Athletic, find a way to read the interview that Mooney Ward gave with Mike Silver. There's a ton of stuff in there. And there's a portion of it where Mooney is talking about his contract. Whoop, sorry, that's the wrong button. There we go. Mooney's talking about his contract, and basically he wanted to sign another contract to stay with the 49ers, and they told him no, essentially. And he wasn't happy about it. He told Mike Silver, quote, "There was a lot going on, bro, because if you're winning, shit, everybody wants to get paid. Everybody feels it. Everybody feels that when certain guys are not around and certain guys are around, but not participating. Like, I was there. I had surgery after the season under the advice of them, and I was rehabbing with them. I had been all pro too, and I didn't get paid. So I was like, what the bleep? Like, people are not showing up and getting paid, and I wasn't. So it definitely made me feel some type of way. That type of stuff, it does take a toll, on the whole team. So, yeah, I think it matters that Bosa and Trent are out there this year, because if they're out there and they're busting their ass, that tells everybody else they got to bust their ass too. So I think that maybe the Niners took this to heart a little bit.
And I think they should. I mean, he has a legitimate gripe. The Niners absolutely made the right choice in not paying him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if he had another all-pro season. At his age, at his position, you don't pay. But if I was in his shoes, I would want paid. And if I was in his shoes saying, well, I made an all-pro, I'm one of those premium players, I'm younger than a George Kittle, I'm younger than a Trent Williams, I'm around the same age of a Nick Bosa, yet you won't even talk to me, but those guys are getting contracts when they're not showing up to off-season stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them did not show up to training camp. I think he mentioned Ayuk, or at least the article did mention Ayuk as somebody that, also held out and then got paid. So it's one of those scenarios. Neither side's necessarily wrong.
Yep.
For feeling the way they did. The Niners, no reason to negotiate with them. If Mooney Ward wanted like maybe $15 million a year, I could maybe have seen like bring it back, but it was clear he wanted more than that. I mean, I put it this way: the article didn't quite hammer this home as much as I wanted them to, but they mentioned that Lenore got paid and that he's younger. Yeah, he got paid and he got less per year than Ward got with his new team. Like, they paid the younger guy, who for many, many, many reasons had a better year last year. And even Ward says he's a better fit for what Lynch and Shanahan want from a corner, meaning more physical. And they paid him less per year than what Ward got on the open market. So, like, it's not just that they chose the other guy. The other guy was also a little bit cheaper.
And fit better what they want. I just thought it was interesting that he noted, like, the guys take notice, right? They see who's out there. They see how much they're out there. They see what they're doing when they're out there. And I think Tim noted, like, maybe Bosa and Trent will dial it back, the rest of camp. Who knows? I hope that they don't. Kyle said it in his press conference. McCaffrey didn't do training camp last year. Trent Williams didn't do training camp last year. It didn't save anything. They still got hurt. So, like, there are no guarantees with any of this stuff. And I just say, bleep it, man. Go out there, let it rip, work hard every day. You can do things and manage guys' loads and do things like that. But, like, these guys got to be a part of it. Everybody has got to be a part of it.
Here's my gripe with it. If you're going to be a team that does not play your players in preseason almost at all, then they need to do training camp. If you want to give them a break in training camp, but you end up playing starters like, a full half in most preseason games, I can get behind that. I still would prefer them to take part in training camp and then get their rest in preseason. But you can't do both. You can't say, they're not really going to take part in a lot of training camp and they're not going to play in preseason. Both of them have talked in recent years about how it took them a couple of games to knock the rust off. Gee, do you think it's because you didn't practice and you didn't do preseason that it took you a while to get back into game?
Yeah, I agree. Like we said, they don't have to do everything all out 100%, but one or the other at the bare minimum. I wouldn't mind seeing them in some preseason games, a series or two, just for the effect, like Mooney Ward was talking about, that it has on the other guys. These guys are out here. Hey, we got to go to work. It's a daily grind, that type of thing. And I
also, there's changes on both lines. So I want to see them out there. Like, get Trent Williams some time in a game with whoever's going to be left guard. Get Nick Bosa out there some at the same time as the rookies. that are on this team and the new guys that were brought in, so that they get a little bit of the mesh going and understanding. Like, I mean, you get that some in practice, but like there is kind of some timing. There's internal clocks, especially in the pass rush, of knowing like, this guy, his moves take this long, and he's going to be to the quarterback around this time. And, if he has this assignment, that means he's probably going to be in this area. So if I rush the passer from this angle, it might run him into that guy. You know what I mean? Like they know those things, but they know them almost instinctively. Like I don't think there's a ton of like thinking about it in the midst of the game. It's something that comes from playing with them and getting a feel for them and knowing. Just like, I mean, there's some of that on offensive line too. Trent Williams will know, okay, the guy next to me struggles with these kinds of pass rush moves. Let me look over during that time to see if they're getting beat from that. If they struggle with a bull rush, look over right away. If they struggle with a spin move with the guy going towards Trent Williams, Trent can look over to see if the spin move is happening, to know if he needs to try to give him a little help, or you know what I mean? Like there's little things that end up making big differences, because a quarterback being able to get the ball off is a matter of fractions of a second a lot of the time. So both offense and defensive line, a fraction of a second is a big deal.
There definitely has to be time together. Guys talk about it all the time. Coaches talk about it, I should say. You can only really get in football shape by playing football, and part of football shape is learning those ins and outs and learning some of that timing and all of that stuff. So I just thought it was very interesting, especially when Tim used the phrase, this team had its foot off the gas, in recent. And we get that. Look, I understand.
We're all gas, no brakes. What happened?
Yeah. Well, guess who's back now?
Yeah.
The guy with his foot on the accelerator, Robert Saleh, is back. There were a few other things in that Mooney Ward article that I thought were really cool. One of which was, even before the personal tragedy happened with Mooney Ward, he wasn't really all in on the season. And it's because he wanted a new deal. He said, quote, "Even before everything happened with my baby, I wasn't super motivated, because after the year I had in 23, I wanted a contract extension and I knew I wasn't getting an offer. They came to me and kind of told me what it was, because they had other people to pay. So it kind of had me in my feelings a little bit. I never made it public. I was hurt when I realized I wasn't getting a contract extension or even an offer for an extension. So I wasn't motivated. Like from OTAs all the way through camp, I was kind of ticked off. I knew when the season started, it was a wrap for me in the Bay." I completely understand why he was annoyed by that. He wanted to stay in San Francisco and he thought he deserved it. And they told him flat out, like, dude, we're not like, it's over after this year. But he also goes on to say in the article that he has nothing but love for Kyle and nothing but love for John, because they never BS'd him about it. And this is the type of thing that I feel like I give Lynch and Shanahan credit for that. They didn't lie. They didn't do anything. They sat him down and they were like, look, we got to pay people. We're not paying you. It's over. They let him know exactly where he stood right away. And as a player, and I know as an employee, when I've had a boss, that is all I've ever wanted. Just tell me what's up. Be real with me. Tell me what's up and I can deal with it. And so I think that while he was frustrated by it, I think it was the right way to go. And I give Shanahan and Lynch credit for it.
Yeah, I think being honest with him, you need it to be, because if you get to the end of, say, preseason, I would venture a guess, and they still haven't talked to you about an extension, it becomes abundantly clear what the truth is. So if they told you in March or February, yeah, we might be interested in extending you, and then they don't even ever reach out to talk to you, and the regular season is starting, it's pretty clear they lied to you back in February, March, and that just makes it so much worse. I do feel like you need to say that the one thing that I think is wrong on both of these sides is that Mooney Ward allowed it to affect his play on the field. Now, people are human. I think it's hard not to, but I also think that becomes a privilege for the people that have already gotten one big contract. Because if you're a young player and you're doing everything you can to get that first massive payday, you don't let it affect your play. It's a privilege that, while I already am set up for life when it comes to money, so this time, you find yourself not being as motivated as, when he was coming away from Kansas City, he didn't act that way. So it's something that I think deserves to be said, that is something that he shouldn't have allowed happen.
He did say, and this is the other thing I wanted to point out, he did say that around the Dallas game, right after the Dallas game, right, that was the week where he was like, you know what, I got to lock in and let's go. And literally, that's exactly when his daughter died. Was like just when he had sort of, because I think that's part of the Niners calculation with this whole thing too, right? We know how much the 49ers value those football guys, so to speak, right? Those guys that just want to run through the wall and all of that stuff. And so I think part of their calculation with, hey, we're going to sit you down and be honest with you and tell you flat out what's up is, yeah, you might get ticked off about it. And yeah, it could affect you for a minute. But eventually we know you're one of those football crazy guys. You're going to lock in because you love it. And that, according to Ward, had started to happen. It's just unfortunately, once everything happened with his daughter, he was done after that. Completely understandably. He was as candid as you could be. And basically, he just didn't care about anything after that, which I totally understand.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in his shoes, I'd probably be retired. Like, I probably would have retired over it. I mean, I've had those conversations because I'm somebody that kind of likes to mentally prep for all situations with my wife. And I flat said that if something were to happen to my daughter, I could never do self-harm, but I'm not continuing in society. I'm probably going to be like some kind of bum on the street because I would have no motivation to continue being a cog in the wheel to get a paycheck. Like, I would have no interest. I would not be able to continue with like normal life. So the fact that he's playing, he's further than I could have gone with it because he has enough money to where he could retire if he cared to. But I don't fault him at all for after that happened. Like, his play when he returned, I don't care. Like, that's fine. You know what I mean? It's completely understandable. And if I was in his shoes, I wouldn't have returned. So
he said, quote, once I came back, I was just like, I don't give an F what happens. I don't care if I win this rep. I don't care if I lose this rep. I was there physically, but mentally, I was somewhere off the grid, off the globe.
And he said that he shouldn't have come back and he wanted to leave many times, but he knew once he had come back, if he left, they would not have paid him.
Yeah, and he wants the money that was owed in his contract. It had to be tough for him too, knowing like, hey, I'm a free agent next year. I know I'm going to be a free agent next year because they told me, and he knew he wasn't at his best. And he knew every time he went out there and didn't play his best, it was potentially affecting the contract that he could get once he, maybe was emotionally a little more ready to play. So just a bad year all around last year, obviously. But the comments, that's why I love Mooney Ward, man. He just doesn't BS you. No, like, coach speak, he just tells it exactly like it is. And you think of that, and Trent Williams obviously had the tragedy last year, and then flip it to this year, Levin. You've got Christian McCaffrey becoming a dad. You've got Brock Purdy becoming a dad. Off the field stuff this year is the complete opposite of last year, which is just, also adding to just the good vibes that this team has going right now.
Yeah, both those guys got to work. I mean, they both got married a year ago.
All right. I didn't think we were going to be breaking that schedule down.
I mean, what was 9 months from now? They were still in season.
Yeah, so, we don't need to do the math. It's fine. Anyway. So yeah, when I read the Ward stuff, I wanted to just talk about it because Jason and Steph were talking about it, and I always get jealous because that's the one day where I'm not on the air, and of course I feel like that's when everything happens, and I want to talk about stuff, and so I just wanted to bring it up on this show. In terms of the current,
you could use boss privilege, like create a boss button, and if there's like a time you want to chime in, yeah, you hit it, and boss button comes up on the screen, and then it's you.
No, it's their show,
I know. I would not be on a show if you had that ability. Oh, this is your show, but I'm gonna have this button over here that I can hit whenever I want to make it my show.
In terms of this training camp, as Sean is very cranky in the chat, he wants to know about the current 49ers. Yes, we know training camp is in full swing. We can talk about that. We've been talking about it every day this week, every day on the channel. Sean, it's not acting like, we've been ignoring training camp. We're all over it.
You're feisty tonight with the
I
chat.
am.
You responded to that guy asking who the Chargers were playing, saying, yeah, put that into Google.
Yeah, because that's a thing with me. Like, that bugs me. When people ask me questions that they could very easily find the answers to themselves.
But here's the thing, Rob. For him to go to Google that, he would have to go away from the stream and not be looking at us. And this is our time.
It is our time, but you can open a new tab, man. It's not that hard. I swear to God. In terms of this camp, Niners worked out a couple of running backs today, which has me a little nervous, Levin, because Jordan James didn't practice yesterday. They worked out our old friend Jeff Wilson. They worked out Dearness Johnson, and PFT added a couple more names, actually. Amir Abdullah, Andy Isabella, Marquez Callaway, and Deion Jackson. Not all those guys are running backs, obviously, but are we now dealing with a running back injury? I don't know, but they don't have guys to work out for no reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm concerned, but it is odd that they're suddenly working out running backs, and shocker, they haven't told us why.
Well, that injury situation is one I'm keeping an eye on. Also, Mykel Williams, they're saying it's a, quote, minor ankle injury. Gulp. This team and minor injuries are not really friends, and we know that Mykel battled an ankle injury all last year with Georgia.
Yeah, not ideal, but so far, what has happened in training camp, I'll take. There's been no injury, knock on wood, that has been a projected timetable, and I do mean projected, because as you said, we know how this team goes with injuries, that would last into the regular season. Right.
Bernardo Green is supposed to be back around August 14th. That's around the Raiders joint practice. Same with Jacob Cowing. Ricky Pearsall missed practice yesterday, but supposedly that was just a rest day. Again, I say supposedly because I'm taking all this stuff with a huge grain of salt. Let's see if he's back out there on the field, and if he is, what he's actually doing. But those are the big uns right now, especially the mykel thing too, because it was like the vibes were so high after the first padded practice, and everybody's like, holy crap, this guy looks great. He's so long, he's strong, he's knocking Trent Williams all over the place. And then boom, immediately out the next day of practice. It's like, man, we just can't have nice things.
No. I thought you would have learned that by this point.
Well, I was hoping, new year, maybe a new thing. I don't know. Another guy.
I'll believe it when I see it. That's where I'm at with that stuff.
Let me run some names past you, and you tell me if you believe it or if you're highly skeptical. D. Winters been getting a ton of love. Matt Barrows called him one of his winners. He was flying around in camp, hitting Isaac Guerrero, making interceptions. He said, this is D. Winters, in his press conference that he's sort of figured out now how to take care of his body in terms of diet and hopefully how to, be out there so he's not missing every other possession, it seems like. Are you buying the D. Winters hype?
Do I think he'll be the starter at the start of the season, the second guy next to Fred Ward? I would say that he will likely be the starter. Do I believe he's going to be suddenly a Dre Greenlaw out there? No. I mean, he'll be the second starter most likely, but I don't think he's going to suddenly become somebody that recognizes plays really quickly. I mean, that's been his problem, is that he's just always kind of a half second behind.
He doesn't need to be Dre Greenlaw, though. Like, we have that temptation as Niner fans, like D. Winters is going to be, Dre Greenlaw, and Upton Stout is going to be K'Wan Williams, right? We always revert to an older version of this defense and these players, and that's not what it has to be at all. You can be successful being, without it being the same.
He can't be worse than the guy that played a majority of last year. That's for sure.
Filthy Casual had the same thought. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, literally putting a statue out in the field probably would have been better, because at least not to count on that.
The statue would go in the game too if you told it
to. But the thing is, D. Winters would have been the starter last year over the other guy. The problem is he can't stay healthy. So, like, even if he has turned the corner, until he shows he can stay healthy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he may have gotten better just as a player, but you're right. If he can't stay out there, I mean, he couldn't even finish series. It was
Right.
crazy. You would see him limp off like every time. You'd be like, oh, and then he'd be back out there again the next series trying to gut through it and make it work. I haven't heard a ton about Nick Martin, good or bad. I haven't heard a lot of bad stuff either. But
Preseason's going to probably tell us about Nick Martin more than anything else because, like I said, I have a hard time believing hype in training camp, especially with rookies, because everybody wants to write positive about the rookies because they know that's what people are looking for most. You know, when we're looking at training camp reports, I know my eyes are immediately drawn to the rookie names, and I want to see how they're doing. So you got to take that with a grain of salt. I think when you get into preseason and you see them going against other guys, it becomes pretty clear who's going to be good as a rookie, who has potential, showed flashes, and who was way over their head.
I think that we all have to take all this training camp stuff with a grain of salt. Barrows and Kawakami talked about, because the Niners have reoriented their practice fields, a lot of times you can't see anything. Like, they flat out said, Kawakami expressly said, like, he might not even go because of how little you can see when you're out there.
I let me say this. I get why he says that and why it would be hard to go, but that's exactly what they want. Because if people stop showing up, they'll just say, well, there's no reason to do this anymore and have this as an open media practice because nobody comes anyways. You got to keep showing up so that it remains a possibility.
Steph Sanchez is there on the ground for us. What she explained to me is, like, depending on what point of the practice it is or how they do practices, like every other day, sometimes they have a really good view in the end zone. And then sometimes, like, it's really hard to see what's going on. So we got to, as always, you should always take training camp reports with a grain of salt, but maybe especially this year, at least until they sort of figure out who's going to stand and what they can see and all that stuff. We're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait for the preseason games. It'd be interesting if we get anything else, anything additional from the joint practices. I don't know how much media are going to be allowed in those. So we'll have to wait and see. They're going to have the 2 joint practices this year. Remember, Broncos and Raiders. We know how much Kyle loves the joint practices. So we'll have to wait and see on all of those. And obviously, if the Niners sign a running back, we'll let you know. We'll keep you up to date. And if anybody in the chat sees it, maybe it happens during the show. I don't know. Let us know so we can react to that. Speaking of reacting to things, I was listening to a conversation with Mina Kimes and Jordan Rodriguez. They were doing an NFC West preview. And Mina blew my mind with 2 stats, 1 offensive stat, 1 defensive stat. Let's start with the defensive stat since we were kind of talking about the rookies. I'll throw it up on the screen. When the Niners defense last year, with all their problems, got pressure, they were first in success rate and second in EPA per play in the entire league. Now, when they didn't get pressure, which happened far more often, but when they didn't get pressure, they were 30th in success rate and 29th in EPA per play. I was blown away by that when they got pressure, when this defense functioned the way it was supposed to, they were awesome last year. And that stunned me because I did not feel that watching the games.
Well, let me not necessarily burst your bubble because it is an interesting stat, but I think there's an aspect to this that you may not have thought about that devalues it some.
Here comes the part where Levin craps all over the point I just made.
Yeah, pretty much. The 49ers didn't blitz almost at all last year.
Right.
Meaning when they did get pressure, they got pressure with 4, meaning they had 7 in coverage. So, of course, that then becomes highly successful because they have a ton of defenders back there in coverage, and they didn't have to use very many people to get that pressure. When they didn't get pressure, that meant the team could just sit and pick apart one particular linebacker, but some other players as well. You know what I mean? So, like, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they weren't blitzing, that this is a little bit of not necessarily a false stat, but it is a little misleading, I guess is the way I would put it, because they blitzed so infrequently that, of course, when they got pressure, they found success because there was so many guys back in coverage.
But it's not just success. It's best in the NFL.
Right, but other teams, when they got pressure, they would have been blitzing a lot of the time, meaning there's less guys in coverage.
Oh, you
meaning
don't.
they yes, you do, because a lot of every team blitzes more than the 49ers did. And a lot of times your blitz is when you get pressure. So that means they have less guys in coverage. It's easier for the quarterback to find somebody. Where did the blitz come from? I'm throwing to that area and finding some level of success. When you don't blitz and you still get pressure, that's when you're virtually unbeatable. That's been what the Niners are trying to do since this regime took over.
Yes, but the Niners aren't the only team that gets pressure with just 4. So other teams had 7 people back in coverage some of the time too.
I'm saying the Niners, it was virtually every single time because they almost never blitzed. Whereas other teams, I know for a fact in the NFL, when you get pressure, a majority of the time it came with a blitz when they sent 5 or more. So that means for the average team, more often than not, there were less than 7 guys in coverage when they got pressure.
The 49ers rushed for 80% of the time last season, which is annoying because they were so bad at getting pressure with 4. They were 22nd in pressure rate, and they logged 37 sacks, which was 23rd last season. But I was just blown away by the fact that, like, I saw that and I was like, well, they should be better at getting pressure this year without having to blitz. So we may see a better, and the schedule that they played last year was one of the most difficult in the league too. And they still had this kind of success. So if you're telling me now we've got a better defensive coordinator with better defensive linemen against a weaker schedule, and now my hopes for this defense are through the roof.
I mean, you could put it this way, that if they're able to get pressure frequently, much more frequently because of a player they acquired and a player they drafted that specifically addresses that, and let's say they can get up to like 12th in pressure rate, that means they're very likely to be a top 10 defense because of this stat saying that, yeah, it's not like the Niners are suddenly going to become a massively frequent blitzing team. They didn't blitz very much with Robert Saleh either. The entire time that they have played with Kyle Shanahan as the head coach, they have been in the bottom, I think it's 20 or lower in blitz rate. So it's not like they're going to suddenly get more pressure because they're blitzing a ton, meaning that statistic should hold up. And if they can get all the way up to 12th in pressure rate, then they're likely to be a top 10 defense.
I think you are poo-pooing my stat incorrectly. I dismiss your poo-poo.
27th in the league, 19% of the time.
Mm-hmm. But every time they get pressure last year, wasn't just with 4. Some of the times they got those pressures were blitzing, so they didn't have 7 in coverage. I think you're.
But it's much lower frequency than other teams.
Yes, it is.
Than the NFL average. By far, it's lower.
Yes, but other teams get pressure with 4 too, and they weren't just better when they got pressure. They were first. What was it? I need to put it back on the screen.
First and second and 30th and 29th.
First in the NFL in success rate. I don't know. I see these things. I like to be happy. You see these things. You like to find a reason to be sad.
I like to find the truth of the matter.
I don't think it's the truth.
And I said that this isn't necessarily I said it's interesting and that there is truth here, but I said it is a little bit misleading because of how little they blitzed. It means in terms of the amount of times that they got pressure and had 7 in coverage, they would be massively high ranking on that list, if not first overall. So that gives them an advantage in a statistic like this. A huge advantage.
Just because you have 7 guys in coverage doesn't mean that those guys are any good. And a lot of the times they weren't with the 49ers last year. It just doesn't guarantee that you're going to have success just because you have 7 guys in coverage.
Do you know how quarterbacks beat the blitz by far the most often?
Yes, you throw to replace the blitz.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So, but you're acting like, oh, that's it. All you got to do is keep 7 back in coverage and you're good. Like, no.
If you can get pressure, that's the huge key aspect of this. If you can get pressure with 4, you are going to be a dominant defense. That is literally the number one philosophy the 49ers regime has had since 2017. We want to get pressure with our front 4.
Yes,
because they know that if they can get pressure with the front 4, you are going to dominate the NFL.
That's obviously the goal, but it also doesn't guarantee that you would be first or second in the league if you can get pressure with 4. And we don't even know.
No, I didn't say it guarantees. I said it does disvalue that statistic a little bit because it's a little bit skewed due to that.
I think you're overvaluing the disvaluing. What do you think about that?
I think you're being highly argumentative right now, and you just can't handle that I burst your bubble.
Please, I don't think you did. I think it was one of those times where you got the pin in the balloon and the pin.
I think it's because you respect and like Mina Kimes, and you hate me, and that's the real thing here.
I do respect.
You're mad that I'm poo-pooing a Mina Kimes thing.
I will say you're right. I do respect Mina Kimes. The other stat that she had came on the other side of the ball. It was the Brock Purdy stat. I'll throw that up on the screen. Last year, again, the year from hell, Brock Purdy was 3rd in QBR or 4th in QBR on 3rd down last year, despite all the crap that happened on offense. And when he was under pressure on 3rd down, Brock Purdy had the 2nd highest QBR in the league. Only Lamar Jackson was better under pressure on 3rd down than Brock Purdy. How about Lamar Jackson in an all-time good year, by the way, where he threw, 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions? And Brock Purdy was second only to him under pressure on 3rd down. And, of course, the 49ers, as we know, were 31st in the NFL in yards after catch last year. So lest you think he was just checking it down and letting somebody else do all the work, that was clearly not the case with Brock.
No, that this type of stuff is exactly why a lot of pundits have said Brock was a lot better than the statistics would lead you to believe last year.
You're going to poo-poo this one too?
No. This one, the critical thing I'm going to say about it is, yeah, they're 31st in the NFL, and what is their entire goal with their skill players? Let's get guys that can break tackles and do something after the catch, and yet they're 31st in the NFL in that. Yeah.
Well,
like I said, Debo was a net negative, and it's not even close last year. He hurt this team more than he helped this team.
Did you see what he said? I'm not sure what day it was this week.
Probably something that passes the buck to somebody else because he can't accept blame.
No, well, his quote was, "I have a lot left in the tank." And my first thought was, if you have to say out loud that you have a lot left in the tank, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe he'll be awesome this year. He's certainly going to be motivated because he wants to stick it to the Niners and stick it to everybody that, look, he got booed at home last year. I'm sure he hasn't forgotten that. Maybe he'll be great. And maybe Cliff Kingsbury can, do some things with him. And it's certainly possible. But I'm certainly not sad that he's in another uniform. That's for sure.
No, he, at this point, unless he gets another 1,000-yard season, he's one of the greatest one-hit wonders there's been.
Yeah, that's true. And maybe that, he
had a 1,400-yard season on 77 catches and then never again had 1,000 yards. That's one of the greatest all-time one-hit wonders.
He put the team on his back that year. No question about it. And he certainly hasn't risen to that level or really anything close to it. Does the yak stat, the fact that the Niners were 31st in the NFL in yards after catch last season, Levin, dissuade you from the idea that Kyle Shanahan needs to evolve the offense or hasn't evolved the offense?
No. I think that shows that his offense is stale and his players were stale last year.
Oh, I think it shows that he's not doing the same old stuff. It's that he's throwing the ball deeper down the field and not.
No, I think he ran just as much stuff to try to get Debo the ball as he did before. Debo did nothing with it. It is Brock who was pushing the ball down the field.
Well, you think he's just refusing to throw to Debo Samuel? Like, what do you mean by that?
No, Debo got plenty of designed plays called for him to just get him the ball.
Mhm.
I'm saying like that didn't change. What changed is that Brock looks at the intermediate and deep routes much more frequently and was letting it rip a little too much. He was trying to make the big play a little too much, as he's admitted. So it was Brock taking the same stuff that has existed, and instead of taking what's there, trying to force things deeper.
I was working though, especially in the first part of the year. He was cooking. He was awesome. The first like 4 or 5 games of the year, Brock was awesome.
Well, I know we saw the flash of why he got paid. We saw like, wow, this guy can not only execute this offense, he can be a difference maker himself, because he not only executes and makes sound decisions, but he can turn a turd into a 30-yard gain because of his ability to escape a pass rush and his ability to keep his eyes down the field and find something even when he's scrambling. That's what all the great quarterbacks do, other than pretty much Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. Those are the only two that have been able to absolutely dominate and be one of the greats that weren't guys that could create, something from nothing. They just read the defense so damn well and were so smart. They knew what was going to happen before the ball snapped.
Jonathan O'Rourke says you have to look at Debo as an all-purpose yards guy and not just receiving. You can.
His rushing was terrible last year.
Right. That's the thing. It's like you can throw in the rushing. He has one other 1,000-yard from scrimmage season other than 2021.
Yeah.
So, and he's been in the league for 6 years. So you can count all the numbers you want to count, Jonathan.
Look, he's one of those guys that once we get removed from the now and he becomes something of the past, I think the reputation that's going to stick with him is once he got paid, he got lazy. He didn't break as many tackles, and we already know it's been reported multiple years that he's overweight.
Well, the weight thing has been an issue.
Right.
His entire career. He was running miles with Wes Welker before and after practice when he first got to the Niners. So he has battled that.
Hey, Sean Turner, no blind melon remarks that are negative in the chat.
You're a Blind Melon fan?
They're from my hometown, and I knew Shannon Hoon. I didn't know him well. I knew his younger cousin. Played soccer with his younger cousin, but yeah, I knew the Hoons, put it that way.
All right. There you go. Things I learned about Levin Black on the show.
I never knew Axl Rose, but my dad did when he was, he was the high school head coach at his alma mater, and Axl went to that high school. Or Bill Bailey.
You have the most random stuff in your life. It's unbelievable. You
Guns
just
N' Roses is half LA local, and 2 of them, Izzy Stradlin, who was the rhythm guitarist, and Axl Rose are from Lafayette, Indiana. And Izzy Stradlin actually lives in Lafayette, Indiana.
Do you just have like a Rolodex in your head of famous people from Indiana?
No, you have a Rolodex in your head from your hometown when you have famous people that came from it. And it's a small town.
Well, The Rock.
I mean, it's still the same thing here. Literally, I sorry, I had to cut you off, but you go to the mall here. I'm in Pittsburgh, right? There's an art store where you can buy like paintings, like actual professional paintings. And the one they have on display in their window is I forget exactly the way they put it, but it's all the quarterbacks from Pittsburgh, because there's like 6 Hall of Famers that are from the Pittsburgh. Yeah. So that's the painting that they have on display, because they're all from the Pittsburgh area. By being from the Pittsburgh area, what they mean? Joe Namath is from about 45 minutes north of where I'm at. And Joe Montana is about 20 minutes south of me, meaning those two actually grew up about an hour apart from each other. Not at the same time, obviously, but like Pittsburgh area, it's a pretty big area. I mean, I was less than an hour from Indy. We didn't consider the Indy people as being locals.
Well, people take liberties with that stuff.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, I think that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover on today's show. I'm just looking over my notes. Oh, I want to make a prediction on the Trey Lance thing. If Trey Lance has even a remotely good game, you will see an article. Jim Harbaugh fixed Trey Lance. Kyle Shanahan couldn't do it. Jim Harbaugh is better than Kyle
Yeah.
Shanahan. The 40, it'll be out there. All Trey has to do is have that one Danny Gray pass, right? And that article, you will see that article in the sphere of 49ers Twitter.
I would not be surprised at all. It would probably be written by somebody that does not like Shanahan. Or that will be the hot take on morning shows, maybe. I got another factoid for you that might interest you as a Mariners fan about people's hometowns. We can do this sidebar. This is the type of sidebars I absolutely love in sports. Do you know where Ken Griffey Jr. is from? Well, not from, where he was born.
Cincinnati.
No.
All right.
He was born in Donora, Pennsylvania, which is a really tiny mining town about 20 minutes from me in the Pittsburgh area. Do you know who else is from Donora, PA? And by tiny, I mean I'm talking like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people at most.
Griffey apparently moved to Cincinnati when he was 3. No, I don't know who else.
I know. Stan Musial.
Ah.
So 2 of the all-time greats are from the same 1,000-person small town.
The underrated Hall of Famer. Stan Musial is always the example I give when I talk about how you can be literally in the Hall of Fame and be underrated. The man has
he's a top 10 player of all time, position player. Baseball is one of those. I think you have to separate the debate between pitchers and position players.
Yeah. I love Stan Musial. Same amount of hits on the road and at home in his career. Exactly the same number. 7 batting titles. The man was a freaking monster. And he missed a year because of the war. His age 24 season. He didn't play. Anyway, you got me talking about baseball. Because you're a jerk. But anyway, that's going to do
Why am I a jerk? That's a great factoid, and chat's talking about it.
That's a great factoid. I like to think that we provide a little bit more than just factoids on the show.
We do. We provide great words. You said snippet earlier that somebody loved in the chat, and I just said factoid.
There you go. See, this is the sort of analysis that you can't.
We're a little higher brow here. You'll learn. You'll grow your vocabulary, and it's not just because I mispronounce words.
Although that is a big draw for a lot of people. Just going to lay that out there. If this is your first time checking us out, thank you so much. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. We're here every single weekday for you in the season, even in preseason, actually. We'll be here pretty much 7 days a week. So please give us a shot. I promise you'll like what you see. For Levin Black, I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody.